Hi there, it's Emma and welcome to Sax Bites, the 5-minute saxophone lesson podcast. I'm going to start today's episode with a quick little call out. I need you, my listeners, to write into me. I want to start a little side series of episodes where I answer listener questions about the saxophone, about learning the saxophone, and all things awesome. So if you have a question, please email me, respond to me on socials, send me a DM. I want to answer your questions. Today's ep, I want to talk a little bit about fingers. It is easily the number one question I get asked by students when I say, what do you want to work on this year? Or what are your goals? And it is, I want to play faster. I want to play better. I just want to get really, really good. How do I get really, really good at the saxophone? And unfortunately for those students, I have to remind them that the only way to get really, really good at anything is 1, to be really bad at it first, and 2 is to put in the time. It's not really what they want to hear, and I'm finding more and more students are wanting some sort of quick fix, some secret cheat code to skip to the end and to be able to play really, really fast, really, really quickly. So where I like to start with conversations like this with my students is to direct them to the concept of finger fluency. That is, how are their fingers moving across the instrument accurately, effectively, and in time with good rhythm? And I'll put something in front of them, quite often, maybe like a fast-moving etude or something very scalic, something that, let's say we've been working on sharp keys, I might put something in front of them that's got a lot of semiquavers in A major. And I'll say, okay, play this. And they'll go through it and they'll get really stuck and they might forget their G sharps and they'll be like, see, I can't do it. I can't play fast. And then I'll point out, hey, this is based on A major scale. Can you play me an A major scale? Yes, that's easy. They can do it. Can you play me an A major scale starting on low C sharp on the saxophone, going all the way up to high F sharp and back again? So we're not starting and ending on the tonic. We're starting and ending on different points of the scale, but we're going up and down using that key, using that F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp structure. And quite often they can do it really effectively. And then I'll point them to a run in the piece of music that I've given them, which is very clearly just a run of the A major scale. And suddenly they'll be able to play it. And their minds will always be blown and be, oh, I didn't think that was A major. I didn't recognize it. And this is where I like to talk to students about finger patterns. The key to playing fast, the key to getting your fingers moving really, really well is to know your patterns and have your patterns drilled in. It's why I really insist to all my students that they practice lots of scales in lots of different ways. Scales in thirds, fourths, fifths, all sorts of different options appropriate to their level. If you want your fingers to go faster, you need to reduce the processing time of you reading what's on the music to then translating that into what your fingers need to do. So the more patterns you know, the more patterns you've prepared, regular scales, full range scales, maybe for younger students, just 2-octave scales, interval scales like scales in thirds, scales in octaves is one that a lot of young students can handle as well as more advanced students. And work through those patterns in your warm-ups. When you go to then learn your repertoire, search. Your first thing should be getting a pencil and searching for your patterns. Hey, that little run there is that scale. That little run there looks like a scale. I better check with my teacher which scale it is. You will find a huge improvement in your finger work, in your fluency and ability to play with your fingers moving really effectively if you know your patterns. And surprisingly enough, this is something I even have to remind older students about. I find that we just forget the basics sometimes. And even much older students, university level students, will struggle their way through a really tricky run only for us to go, hey, that's a whole tone scale. Or hey, that's an E major scale just with an added B flat. I don't know. I'm just making that one up. I'm not thinking of a real example. But pattern recognition is the best. And then just as one last little bonus tip before I finish, please keep your fingers close to the keys. There is nothing that will impede your finger work progress more than flying those fingers away from the keys. We want them curled, we want them rounded, and we want them staying close to the keys. And as some of my students can attest, if they don't do it, I will happily go get some blue tack or some sticky tape and will stick their fingers to the keys to make sure that they keep them close. They learn pretty quickly with some blue tack, I have to say. So it's a pretty good teaching tool, even though it seems a little crazy. All right, go out, try and find some patterns in your music, and please engage on socials and tell me how you are going with your finger fluency. Until next time, that's been Sax Bites with another quick tip for you. Until next time, happy practicing. Bye-bye.